Hey everyone, welcome back to Ancient Echoes. In today's episode, Marcus and I take a deep dive into one of history's most intriguingly debated topics, the erosion of the Great Sphinx. We'll break down how modern research, including groundbreaking insights from Robert Schoch, challenges the idea that wind and sand alone shaped this ancient wonder. We'll explore evidence that hints at a wetter climate in Egypt's distant past, and debate whether rain might have played a significant role in sculpting the Sphinx's mysterious features, and stick around until the end to understand how this could reshape everything you thought you knew about this iconic monument. Let's get started.
Absolutely. And today, we're going to explore the erosion debate from every angle. We'll discuss the theory that rainfall, rather than wind-blown sand, is responsible for the distinctive features we see on the Sphinx today. And yes, we'll be crediting the work of Robert Schoch, whose research has been pivotal in this discussion.
Great, I've been reading up on this topic, and I have to say, it really blows my mind. So, Marcus, can you start by summarizing the basics of the debate for us?
Of course, essentially, the traditional view for decades was that the Sphinx's erosion was mainly caused by wind and sand, as you might expect in the harsh Egyptian desert. But then, Robert Schoch and a few other researchers came along and suggested that the erosion patterns indicate a much wetter climate than what's recorded in Egyptian history. They argue that heavy rainfall could have played a significant role in wearing down the limestone over thousands of years.
Wow, that's really interesting. So if I understand correctly, Schoch's theory suggests that the Sphinx might be much older than we thought?
Exactly. According to Schoch, the erosion patterns are consistent with prolonged exposure to water, implying that the Sphinx was carved during a time when the climate of the region was significantly wetter, potentially dating it back to an era predating the traditional timeline of ancient Egypt. This has huge implications because it could mean that the civilization behind its construction might be much older than we currently believe.
That would change everything. It makes you wonder what other secrets might be hidden in those mounds of sand. I read an article that really broke down some of these erosion patterns. Have you looked into that?
Yes, I have. Certain deep fissures and smooth depressions in the rock are more consistent with rain erosion than wind abrasion. Robert Schoch's findings really support this hypothesis. He even suggests that the type of rainfall necessary to produce such erosion is evidence of a climate that existed long before the dynastic periods of Egypt.
It's fascinating how one rock face can challenge our entire understanding of history. But I'm curious, what do critics say? I imagine not everyone is on board with Schoch's theory.
That is correct. Many traditional Egyptologists argue that the prevailing desert climate and the known history of the region explain the erosion without needing a dramatic revision of the timeline. They point out that factors like wind, sand, and even occasional flash floods could also cause the weathering we see. However, Schoch and his supporters counter that these explanations don't fully account for the patterns observed on the Sphinx. They insist that only a significant amount of water over a prolonged period could produce the kind of erosion we're seeing.
So, in a way, it's a clash between conventional wisdom and a more radical rethinking of history with evidence. We don't actually truly know if either are correct. How do you think this debate impacts our understanding of ancient civilizations?
It's huge. If Schoch's theory holds up, then the implications are far-reaching. Not only would it suggest that the Sphinx is older than previously believed, but it might also indicate that there was an advanced civilization capable of monumental construction much earlier than we've assumed. This could potentially rewrite chapters of our history and force us to reconsider how and when human society began to organize itself on a large scale. The more you entertain this idea, the more pieces seem to fall into place in regards to this theory.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why it's such a hot topic among both researchers and the general public. And you mentioned that Robert Schoch's work is a key element here. Can you tell us a bit more about his background and why his research is so influential?
Sure thing. Robert Schoch is a geologist and former professor who has dedicated a significant part of his career to studying weathering patterns in ancient structures. His work on the Sphinx gained international attention because it challenged long-held assumptions about Egypt's history. By analyzing the erosion patterns, he argued that they were inconsistent with the current desert conditions and more likely resulted from rainfall during a period of a significantly different climate. His rigorous analysis and the way he applied geological principles to archaeology have made him a prominent, though sometimes controversial, figure in the field. Nonetheless, an intelligent man.
It's always inspiring to see someone challenge established ideas with solid scientific evidence. It reminds me a bit of how in science, every new discovery builds on or even overturns what we thought we knew.
Exactly, Justin. And debates like this are the lifeblood of academic inquiry. They push us to look deeper and consider alternative possibilities. Whether you agree with Schoch or not, his work has undeniably sparked a wealth of new research and discussion.
I'm really glad we're covering this topic today. It not only gives us a peek into the mysteries of the Sphinx, but also into the broader process of how science and history evolve over time. Before we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I'd say the main takeaway is to remain curious and open-minded. History is full of surprises, and sometimes the evidence forces us to rethink everything we believed was set in stone. Whether the erosion was caused by rain or sand, the mystery of the Sphinx challenges us to continuously question and explore the past.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you, Marcus, for shedding light on such a fascinating topic, and thanks to Robert Schoch for his groundbreaking research that fuels these discussions. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this journey through time.
Thank you all for listening. We're excited to continue exploring more mysteries in our upcoming episodes.
Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs this up, as it helps us reach more of you guys, and share your thoughts with us in the comments. Until next time, keep your minds open and your curiosity alive.